And welcome back to TheNosePlays. This video has been a long time coming. Sunless Sea is one of my all-time favorite games. It is a very difficult game to describe, but I like to think of it as something akin to a digital video game version of a choose-your-own-adventure collection of novels. And that's really what it is. This game is a game about stories. It is not a game about gameplay. There are some gameplay elements. Some of them are better than others, but the real meat of the game is the stories. And like any good book, it's one that you'll constantly want to pick back up if you're into this type of game, which I most certainly am. So we're going to start a new game, and I'm just going to give you a little taste of what Sunless Sea is all about. If you've played Sunless Skies, you already know a little bit about this game. It's from the same developers, it's the same world. If you've ever played Fallen London, as you can see down here, celebrating 10 years, Fallen London is a text-based game based in the same world as the original game for this world. But Sunless Sea was Failbetter's first attempt at like a real video game, and I think it turned out really well. There's only one DLC for this game. It's called Zubmariner, and it actually enhances the game quite significantly and is well worth the purchase price of a DLC. If you do end up getting Sunless Sea, I would definitely consider getting both. That being said, you can guess what Zubmariner adds to the game. We're going to go ahead and do a new game, as I pointed out. Everything in this game is pretty much hand-drawn, so it has a very unique art style that is very pleasing to the eye and creates a very vivid atmosphere, as you'll soon see. The world of Sunless Sea and the world of Fallen London is a very bizarre world. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of reading in this game. I'm going to do my very best to read most of the important stuff for you guys and explain just the basic elements of the game today. I don't know how far we'll really get, but I want to get out to sea pretty quickly and just really play the game and sort of just explain little bits as I go. This is not really a tutorial on how to play the game. It's more of just, here's Sunless Sea. So, Captain's Making. 3 decades ago, in the reign of Victoria, London was stolen by bats. Now it lies a mile below the surface. It was dreadfully inconvenient for everyone, but it opened a vast black ocean to you. Welcome to the Unterzee. Choose a past. Decide who you were and what you want to be. Okay, so the first thing that you get to do in any game of Fallen London is create your character. This just gives you a very little brief snippet of the backstory. Yes, you read that correctly. Bats dragged the city of London a mile below the surface, and now it sits sort of in this little area that I kind of like to think of as purgatory, right above hell. And there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens down here in the Unterzee, where there's this big black cavern filled with water that is much like an ocean. And much like an ocean, there are ships that sail on it. We are one of those ships. We're going to go ahead and do a path wreathed in shadows. This allows us to choose later what our past is. So if you want to go out to sea, immediately choose this. opportunities to revisit your past will arrive later. So you have option of solidifying who you were in future parts of the game. There is one big advantage to choosing this, and I'll explain it later. It has to do with one of the legacies that you can pass on to future captains. And so if you want to achieve that legacy quickly and easily, this is the best way to do it. So we're going to attempt to do that if I end up playing this for any length of time. So we're going to go ahead and pick that one. Okay. So what we're going to get as we play the game are these little cards. And as we collect these things, they will interact in the game, within the game in different ways. So having something unlocks new paths and stories, so to speak, if you have the right things in your inventory. And you can spend these things sort of like playing a card in a card game sometimes. And sometimes they're consumed, other times they're not. So for now, you are a mystery. So this is our whatever. Our past is basically a mystery. An occurrence, you're addressed as quality is now mumble. So nobody really knows how to say our name. Nobody really knows who we are, what we are. There are some weird things down here. Not everything is a human. So whenever we see the word mumble, that is referring to us. You're a stranger. Quality is gone. Welcome to the world. You now lodge in a room above the blind helmsman. So this is our lodging. This is important. We can change our lodging throughout the game. And someone is looking for passage. So someone in London requires our services. We'll go ahead and continue. Okay, so whenever we end up in a port, we can pull out our book, and also over here, all of these options will pop up. And so anything that we can interact with, we can go ahead and do this. We're going to start with advice for Z captains. I'm actually not going to read all of these things. These are basically like brief explanations and tutorials on all of the little things in the game. It's definitely worth reading through all of these your first playthrough. But once you've read it once or twice, you really don't need to read it again. So we can do something with this book here in a moment. Also, a Zubmariner tutorial. Welcome, delicious friend. This teaches you a little bit about how submarines work. Everything in this game has weird pronunciation at times. So submarines are underwater craft that travel the Unterzee. And we can build one if we manage to complete a specific quest. We'll go ahead and look at that later. Also, a passenger. Someone in the docks wants to board our ship. Let's go ahead and find out who this is. Agree to carry the Nomic Gallivant to the Cumaean Canal, or the Iron and Misery Funging Station, or both. History is a horse. Who will pick it with their spurs? He cries to no one in particular. A drop of blood may be as precious as a ruby. Some weird stuff going on here. Welcome aboard. He puffs out his chest. Ruby studs gleam in the lamplight. I knew London had enterprising souls still left in it. I am seeking truths, which I am told I may find in the Iron and Misery Funging Station and the Cumaean Canal. Ideally, I'd learn both, but I could settle for one. For at Port Cecil there will be a contest, and we will change the world with a game of chess. A king will fall. Okay, so we get this special passenger bound for both the Cumaean Canal and the Iron and Misery Company Funging Station. Basically, this is one of the things you do in the game. You transport passengers from one location to another, and that usually gets you a little bit of income. So we'll have that as a first quest for us. That is not always your first quest. Quests are semi-random, so you'll get different ones at different times. So we have some other things that we can do. We can go ahead and visit London. Okay, she's the greatest city in the Unterzee, and don't you forget it. We have several different options here, and this is where things are very much like a choose-your-own-adventure novel. You have different options that you can pick. Some of the options are persistent, and some of the options are only available if you have certain conditions that are met. For example, you can see that this one is locked because we have to have favors with the antiquarian and we have to have secrets. And all of these things are collected in various ways. So these ones that are locked will be unable to interact with at this time, but they'll generally stick around so that we can come back and interact with them later. We can hire on more crew. If we want to take a look at our crew, we currently have 8 of 10 crew available. This number is pretty important. If you get too few crew, your ship doesn't function quite properly, and that can be a very big detriment. Can lead to your demise. We can offer to passage a tomb colonist. An immigrant will pay to be taken north to Venderbite. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the tomb colonist. It's oddly difficult to die and fall in London, but when a Londoner is too tatty and wretched to live, they wrap themselves in bandages and take ship for the tomb colonies. Your crew cart these ones aboard in padded coffins. They'll sleep there until the journey is done. The tomb colonist is in your hold. Take them north to the colony of Venderbite and sell them there. So we're going to basically take this mummy up north, and we'll get paid for that. That's another early task that you generally want to do. Adopt a Blemigan Gallivanter. A Blemigan sits atop a splintered crate, clicking and whistling at captains as they come near. Blemigan, you can kind of make it out here, is something akin to a living mushroom. A polite bow. You extend your hand and the Blemigan leaps on. Its tendrils entwine with your fingers and it chitters quietly. It meets your gaze and bobs its dome in greeting. It's very small. Is it old enough for naval service? You're pretty sure its mustache has been drawn on in pen in an attempt to look older. As you approach your ship's gangplank, the creature flutes and vibrates with apparent happiness. The boatswain winces as you bring it aboard. You now have one of this, Blemigan Gallivanter. Okay, we'll talk about what this guy is in just a second. First, let's talk about what's up here. So up here are our portraits. These portraits are for all of the officers that we have on our ship. So we can have a first officer, a chief engineer, a cook, a gunnery officer, and a surgeon. Each one of these officers gives us extra stats and also generally some type of a quest or storyline that we can follow if we choose to. You don't have to. You can simply just hold on to them for the stats. But you can only ever have one of these active at a time. Now, one thing to keep in mind that is not immediately obvious is that these do not count towards your crew, and they do not count as crew. So even if I have all of these filled up, I will still need 8 or more crew, or in this case, 5 or more crew. You need more than 50% of your total to operate your ship. And these guys do not count as crew. They will not do crew duties. So even if you have a whole bunch of these people, these are the ones that matter in terms of keeping your ship operational, and these don't count towards this number. And neither do you. Right now, the only crew that we have is a comatose ferret. Mostly it's mobile, occasionally it's feral, and it provides us +1 hearts, which we'll talk about in a moment. These are our stats. The stats are irons, mirrors, veils, pages, and hearts. Each of these applies basically to specific types of challenges, and in a more RPG sense, some type of physical trait that you would generally have on a character. For example, irons is very similar to something like strength. This improves the damage that our weapons on our ship do. This also has to do with physical challenges, so if we get in a fight with pirates, we might have to make a check against our irons ability. And the higher the irons is, the more likely we're successful. Mirrors is akin to something like intelligence, detection, and perception. The higher your mirrors, the quicker you can find firing solutions. So this allows us to fire our guns a little bit faster, and it also allows us to solve certain types of tasks that have to do with perception. Veils is something like stealth, agility. So anything that requires stealthiness, veils will be the statistic that we would roll against. Pages is esoteric and practical knowledge. So just basically, maybe this is more like intelligence, this is more like wisdom, I don't know. And then finally, hearts is your constitution. This is how tough you physically are, how healthy you are, and sometimes you'll have to make tests against this. So he's giving us 1 hearts. Let's go ahead and take a look at our officers, and we can see that our Blemigan Gallivanter. We can right-click to speak to him, and we can see he's got his little mustache and his mouth, that his little tendrils. But yeah, this is a Blemigan. Your Blemigan Gallivanter. It has made a home on a shelf in your cabin. It has built a nest from loose journal pages, the engineer's scarf, and possibly a pilfered map. We can entertain our Blemigan. You can see the indentation of a porthole on the rim of its cap. It must have been pressing its face to the windows again. Is it bored? So whenever we have something awaits us, we can do this. And all of our officers usually have some type of way to interact with them. Many of them have very, very lengthy and expensive quests that you can do for them or with them. But this one, we could go ahead and do this. A ticklish thing. The Blemigan flails and squirms as you tickle it. Its high-pitched warble is almost certainly giggling. When you stop to check that you're not actually hurting it, it wraps its tendrils around your fingers and pulls your hand back. Apparently, it is enjoying itself. Okay, so that's enough of that. Let's go to our officers page again. And again, we can have many officers on our ship, but we can only ever have one of their stats being applied to our stats at a time. So I have 2 mascots. We have both the Comatose Ferret and the Blemigan Gallivanter. You can see that the Blemigan offers much better stats, +3 mirrors and +2 pages. So we'll go ahead and throw him, and you'll notice that our stats have changed to reflect that. The Comatose Ferret will still be on board our ship, and we can still interact with him, but he will not apply his hearts unless he's in this position. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to London, and let's see what else we need to do. So we can hire on more crew. This is a modest challenge. It costs 30 echoes. Echoes are the currency within the game. We have 50 echoes currently. And we have 2 empty slots, so we can get 2 more crew members. Having additional crew members doesn't actually improve the speed or anything of your ship, as long as you have enough to operate the ship. But it does increase the number of supplies and food that you go through and how quickly that you go through food. So it's important not to have too many crew that you don't need. So we're actually going to leave that for now. I think we're going to go visit the Admiralty's office. They'll pay for information from Z captains, find out what and how. The Admiralty's Survey Office. The Admiralty's picket fleets and intelligence networks are long gone. The survey office pays Z captains a small sum for recent information. Visit and investigate ports to gain port reports and trade them in here. The first time you trade in a port report, you'll gain Admiralty's favor. Okay, so this is one of the big ways that you sustain yourself in the game. Collecting port reports is a great way to get a little bit of extra money and lots of fuel and sometimes supplies. So you want to collect port reports whenever you're out and about on the map. It is probably the best way to keep yourself alive. And a big part of this game is keeping yourself alive long enough to complete some of the more interesting stories. Ask if there's anything in particular they need. Well, if we can be assured of your discretion. So we can try to take on a special mission. We'll go ahead and talk to him. This port. Speak to our agent there and return. We'll see that you're rewarded. Visit the port below and return to London. You can check the details in your journal at any time. Retrieve strategic information from the Iron and Misery Company funging station, somewhere not far from home waters. Okay, so we now have 2 tasks that want to send us to this place, so this would be a good place to sort of seek out early on. And we'll get a little bit of extra money when we do that. Let's go to our lodgings. Here you may catch up with your correspondence, rest, or retire altogether from seafaring life. The better your lodgings, the better the quality of your retirement, naturally. Read the morning papers. The Unexpunged Gazette, the magazine formerly known as the London Magazine, and Spiteful Trumpeter. News is. So we can read the paper. We should always do this every time we come back to London. Because a lot of times you'll get free supplies and also recent news, which is very useful. News of London is sometimes valuable to other places, and so they will trade various things for that news. We can collect this every time we come back to Fallen London, as long as we've been away long enough. There's a lot of other options here that we're not going to talk about right now because I have no plans to do them, but you can see there's quite a few things you can do at your lodging. Let's go back to London. And we're just about done with anything we want to do here. The last thing that we want to do is go to the shops. So London has a lot of shops, more shops than just about anywhere else, and more things than just about anywhere else that you can buy or sell. The first thing that we're going to do is we don't need this advice for Captain's book anymore, so we can go ahead and sell it for 50 echoes. So that's one of the first things that you'll want to do early on once you've read through the book. Pretty simple. We could buy fuel for 10. Flares are useful for combat. We don't need any at the moment. We could buy supplies for 20. Foxfire candles are an item that can be traded or sometimes used in different stories for 40. So some of these things are pretty expensive. You can see we don't have a lot of echoes right now. Fuel and supplies are really important to keep track of and to pay attention to the prices of. 10 and 20 are the best prices that you can get currently in this general area. There are some places that have slightly better prices on fuel and slightly better prices on supplies. But many places are more expensive, so you'll have to pay attention to different ports. The costs are pretty much always the same, so no matter which port you go to, the prices won't change from trip to trip. They will always stay the same. So fuel in London will always be 10, supplies will always be 20. This is Mrs. Plenty, Shipside Provisioners. We're not going to be buying any of her goods today. But we'll go to the Wolfstack Exchange, and you can see there's a lot of things here that you can only sell. You can't buy any of these things in London, but you can sell them if you find them on your journeys for various amounts of echoes. There are a handful of other things that we can buy. We can buy mushroom wine, firkin of prisoner's honey, a sack of dark drop coffee beans, a crate of human souls, bolts of spider silk, and bale of parabola linen. Ugh. That's a little bit of a tongue twister there. We are going to buy some of these things before we head out. But before we do that, let's just show what else is available. So, Caro's Naval Surplus, this is where you buy all of your guns. There's a lot of different types of guns and weapons. You can also buy torpedoes, torpedo nets. Some of these things are pretty useful in the mid to late game. Most of these things are way more expensive than we can afford. Right now we actually have one of these. Here, the Leadbeater Reconditioned Frigate Surplus Deck Gun Mark II. They sell for 50. We could buy them for 50. They sell for 10. We're going to hold on to our gun for now. We're not going to sell it. But we can only ever have one gun attached to our deck at a time of any particular type. And this is a deck weapon. This is really important. It's very easy to make the mistake of buying weapons that you can't actually equip on your ship. The default ship that you always start with can only have a single deck weapon. There are many weapons that are listed as forward weapons, and then there are a few weapons that are listed as aft weapons. You cannot equip these weapons to your deck position, and you may only equip weapons with the appropriate type in the appropriate slot. So it's really important when you're buying weapons to make sure that you buy a deck gun if you have the default ship and nothing else until you've upgraded your ship. Caminus Yards has some interesting things. We're not going to buy anything here, but he has some very unique weapons and also engines and also rats, which just happen to be really good mechanics in this world. The Iron Misery Company has lots of engines. And finally, Bultitude's House of Vision provides different lamps, which we'll talk about later on. Let's go ahead and head to the shops. And let's go ahead and buy a bunch of mushroom wine. And by a bunch, I mean 4. We could also buy 1 fuel. We might as well. And we're just about ready to get off on our first adventure. So remember, there's a couple of things that we have to do. Number 1, we're supposed to go to Venderbite and drop off the Tomb Colonist. We're also supposed to find the funging station for the passenger that we picked up. And then the... is it the Blemigan? Somebody else wanted to go to the funging station. Oh, that's right. The Admiralty has a spy or an agent at the funging station that we can talk to, get some information, and pass that on for money. So we'll want to do that as well. Okay, so the ship controls are all located up here. There's a couple of different mechanics. I'll briefly talk about them. Your fuel. You have 10 barrels of fuel. When you start consuming it, a little meter will start to drop. As this reaches 0, this will count down and you'll throw the next barrel in. You'll have to keep an eye on your fuel. Traveling at speed consumes more fuel, so the faster you move, the more fuel you tend to consume. Also, running your lamp burns fuel. So whenever you're really low on fuel, it's probably best to run without your lamp. This is your food meter. When your food meter reaches here, you have to feed your crew. The speed at which that bar builds up is based on the number of crew that you have. Again, the officers do not count towards that number. And if you have no food, this bar will continue to fill, and very bad things will happen eventually if you do not find some way to deplete the hunger that is growing in your crew. Last but not least is the terror meter. Terror is a permanent or semi-permanent stat that will build up over time. There are various ways to reduce it throughout the game, but once you've gained points of terror, there's no innate way to reduce it. There are some ways to control it. What will happen is anytime that we're out to sea, and particularly if we're away from land or we're outside of any well-lit area, this meter will start to fill up. It fills up at 2 different speeds, and when it gets completely full, we get 1 point of terror. And those terror ticks will fill this bar up, and when terror gets really high, again, very bad things start to happen. So it's important to keep it under control. However, there are a few things that require you to have terror in order to do. So it's a resource that you sort of have to manage. If it gets too out of control, it can definitely kill you. Straight up just cause you to have a heart attack or panic attacks or all kinds of weird stuff. So you want to be careful. It also affects your crew, so sometimes your crew will go crazy and can do very bad things to each other or you. So you want to control terror. I think that's good enough explanation to get started. So let's go ahead and take a look at our ship, and let's head out. I can turn my lights on or off, and we're just going to set the speed to 2. Engines have 3 speeds, speed 1, speed 2, and then I can set engines to full board. It gives me a short burst of speed, but there is a slight chance that my engines will explode. Since we're in well-lit area, we don't really need to have our lights on. Alright. We're actually not going to stop here yet. Alright, so that's a ship. Enemies can see you if you have your lights on. You're a lot harder to detect without your lights, and the higher your veils, the more difficult that becomes. It's not a good idea to get into fights early on. There are very few things that you're going to be capable of dealing with the starting weapon. At least, not without taking some significant damage. Alright. You might have heard a bell a little while ago, and that bell has basically put a little light here, this lantern. Whenever you hear that bell, that means that you've been away long enough that when you come back to port, you'll have the something awaits for you card in your inventory, and that will allow you to do certain interactions that you normally would not be able to do if you traveled back to a city. So basically what this does is if you go to a city and then you leave and you come directly back to it, it locks certain events from happening again until you're out to sea long enough. And then once you've been out to sea for a while, this icon will show up and it will give you more options when you go to a city. Also, there was a pause button. It's spacebar by default, which is sometimes helpful. It says there's an enemy near us. I didn't see it. Must be the same ship as before. Alright, you've brought this decaying immigrant north. Now what? Watch carefully. Something is happening to the man in the bandages. He sighs. He groans. He clutches his chest. A soft explosion. His bandages burst. Frost moths clamber from the tatters. Nothing of him remains. The frost moths, icy wings shining, take to the air, spiral, dissipate, and are gone. They won't pay his passage now. At least he's left his belongings for sale. Alright, so we've gained 100 echoes. We've brought a tomb colonist to Vanderbite, only for them to dissolve. We have lost 1 tomb colonist, we have gained 1 outlandish artifact, and we've gained 2 supplies for a total of 8. Not bad. There are a handful of different options that will sometimes happen when you reach the tomb colonies. But this is a common first quest that you get to do. Did I not... Let's just click on that. Okay. Her Majesty's Admiralty has sworn off submarine exploration. However, you've heard tales of unofficial research into submarine travel being conducted in her distant colony. Travel to the south coast and follow it east to find Port Carnelian. There you will learn how to convert your ship into a submarine. Be sure you're prepared for the journey. There we go. Let's visit the tomb colonies. On deck, you can hear the sound that 1,000 bandaged dead make as they shuffle and cough. It's something like the world's most restless concert audience, or the world's most plague-ridden cathedral. Alright, so there's not too many things we're going to be able to do. The first thing that we want to do is gather the gossip. Who's plotting what out in the tomb colonies? Along the coast of the Unterzee, it's remarkably hard to die. The decrepit and nearly dead who leave London become tomb colonists and settle here in bandaged peace. But they don't give up their ties to home, or their politics. You gather a haul of complex clues, enough to keep the contacts in London interested. You now have one of this, a port report for Venderbite. This is one of those port reports. Every time you enter a port, you'll generally want to try and collect a port report, and then you'll turn these port reports into the Admiralty for free loot. So very easy loot. Just about every port has one of these, and you can do these over and over and over again as long as the Admiralty is around. Okay, so we did that one. We should also explore Venderbite, and this is the Something Awaits You. So this is only available if we've been out to sea long enough to have this little lantern. If this lantern isn't here, then this will be locked, and we wouldn't be able to do this. So let's go ahead and do that. Here they favor candlelight over gaslight. The shadows are swagged like cobwebs. The tomb colonists stand still enough to be mistaken for sculpture, until they laugh or cough. One building in 3 seems abandoned. A raggedy fellow. I'm a good seaman. I'm yours if you'll have me. Will you have me? I'm hungry. I'll work hard. He seems likely enough, if a little ragged and sorrowful. Take him with you. You could use an extra hand. Leave him here. Strangers are too chancy. You've heard stories about things in shape of sailors. Or you just don't like this space. Most of the time, I wouldn't take him, but I'm going to go ahead and take him. He's free to take. Normally taking on sailors cost us echoes, and we are preciously short on echoes. I don't really need an extra crew member, but it never really hurts to have them, other than it makes your supplies go down a little faster. Alright, we got a little bit of a reward for that too. All the way back to the ship, he talks excitedly about the seaman's craft. You start paying attention when he mentions navigational tricks you hadn't come across. With luck, he'll work as hard as he talks. There may be further effects from this decision. So this is a clue that there's going to be some other event that will pop up at some point where we will have to deal with them. It could be positive, it could be negative, or it could be sort of neutral, just depends, and sometimes it's very random. You gained 1 Veils, now 26. Welcome aboard, stranger. You've gained 1 crew, total is now 9. that's all for now. We've lost this, so we can't do this again. We'll have to leave for an extended period of time before we can do that again. There were a couple other things that we could do. I'm not going to visit the curator. This is a quest that I don't really feel like doing right now, but it is a long quest and a very interesting one. It's just not one that you're probably going to achieve on your first playthrough, so we'll just skip it for now. The nice thing about this game is there are so many stories and so many quest lines, and it can be hard to keep track of them all, so sometimes it's better not to do everything. It's just better to focus on a handful of things at a time. We're pretty much done here, but I want to point out that most places have shops, so you'll want to check the shops tab even if you've done all of the things in the city itself, and see if there's anything that you want to buy or sell, or at least keep in track of and keep in mind what is available here. So you can see Foxfire candles sell here for 33, but remember we could buy them in London for 40. That would not make for very good trade, so we don't want to be doing that. However, the mushroom wine that we picked up, we bought that for 21 echoes a piece, and we can sell it for 23 here, so that's a very small profit, but it is a profit nonetheless. And so we will go ahead and do that just to make a little bit of money and get some of our money that we had invested in supplies and such back. Also notice that fuel and supplies here are more expensive, so we generally don't want to buy things here, especially being so close to London, unless you're in real desperate need to buy them. We can also go to the Hollow Temple. This is where we can sell our recent news for 10 echoes, but there's generally more valuable things that we could do with this, so we'll hold on to it. Visions of the Surface, Monstrous Almanac, Memories of a Distant Shore. These are all things you can collect. The Monstrous Almanac is actually sort of a special item that you can craft, and you can sell it for 1,000 echoes. It's very difficult to put it together, but once you get it, it'll give you 7 pages if you equip it in an auxiliary slot, or 1,000 echoes. Also, Tomb Colonists, we can sell them here for 15 echoes each, but we don't have one anymore, so no need to worry about that. Over here in the logbook, you've noticed little things have been ticking, and as we uncover new things on the map, we get these little bits called fragments, and ever so many fragments that we collect, we gain a secret. If we go to our hold, we can see that we have a secret. We've collected enough fragments to make a secret. There's a number of things that will collect, a number of things that will cause us to collect fragments. Uncovering the map is probably the easiest one, so always looking for new spots on the map to go to and uncover can give you more secrets, and secrets are basically stat points. You can spend secrets generally on your crew, and your crew will use the secret to help raise one of your stats permanently, which is pretty cool. There are a few other places within the game that they're used, but that's generally what you want to use them for, is to raise a stat 1 point. In order to do that, you have to have a crew member, though. And we don't have any of the main crew members, just our mascot, who we speak to him. Same thing as last time. Okay. So, now that we've done that, what we want to do is head out to Z again, and I think what we're going to do is make a small loop on the map here. So if I zoom out, this is the entire map. The map is generally the same in some spots and different in other spots, so it's sort of semi-random. The tiles on the edges of the map tend to always be the same or very similar, but everything in the middle of the map can sort of be shuffled in a relative space. So things have a general area that they're located in, but they could be sort of anywhere in that general area. And so the map is sort of like a jigsaw puzzle that can be pieced together in different ways. Every playthrough will reshuffle the interior of the map, so things will be in slightly different locations. This means that some trade routes will be better during some playthroughs than others. And so you never really know exactly what you're going to get. But you do have the sort of the edges of the map to always learn and be aware of and get your bearings. What we're going to do is we're actually going to head straight out to the east and see if we can't find the funging station. It should be somewhere in this general space right here, hopefully. And if it is, we'll be able to accomplish another task that we have. We have 9 fuel, and so with no knowledge of what is exactly out there, we're going to want to conserve our fuel and run with our lights off. Our terror is really low right now, so we don't really have to worry too much about our terror getting out of control right away. Ooh, there's a crab. Okay, we could probably fight this crab. So as you can see, I'm building up my aiming. Oh, run, run, run. Alright, he smashed us. There we go. Cool. Alright, so we got a couple of options when we kill things. We could do a low-risk challenge, or we can butcher it for supplies. If we butcher it for supplies, it will basically consume all of our hunger. So we basically eat a meal early. We don't actually have a lot of hunger yet. I believe the pages challenge, if we pass it, will give us some fragments. So we'll go ahead and do that. A crab full of conundrums. You set to work with your knives and acids. It is an undistinguished adolescent specimen, a megalops, of one of these deep-sea crab species. But its eyes, normally vestigial in this troglodytic beasts, are large and rather beautiful. The golden glow is almost gone now, although sparks leap now and then to your knife. You succeeded in a page's challenge. This gave us 25 fragments. So if we kill enough crabs, we can gain fragments a little bit faster and gain more secrets. Also notice our hull took a little bit of damage. If our hull takes 100% damage, we sink and the game is over. So we want to be careful not to fight too many things without repairing our hull. Alright, looks like there is an island over here. Got a lighthouse, which is good because we can sort of travel in the light. What do we got here? Okay, a white Z-bat. A sailor has grown fretful and disobedient, reluctant to go on deck, even in port. There's a white Z-bat watching me up there. Salt's messenger. Salt's got an eye on me. I'll never see home again. Salt. Sailor's superstition. Order him up on the deck at once. Salt. Salt. One of the nameless gods that sailors fear. This sailor is conscientious man. Send him to the sick bay on the pretext of a fever. Feed the Z-Bat. If white Z-Bats are sacred to Salt, perhaps you'll win Salt's favor. If you believe any of this, unlock when gods of the sea, Salt's attention is blank. Or we could shoot the Z-Bat. If the something thing is frightening your something crew, you'll something well settle it harsh. We have a 75% chance of shooting it down. Let's go ahead and feed the Z-Bat. This will probably cost us supplies, but maybe not. Oh dear. Okay, from your fingers. The Z-Bat takes fungal crackers from your fingers as boldly as a parrot. It dips its head to your chirrups, something you might mistake for speech. It spreads its wings and leaps into the air. The next day your crewman is gone, along with one of the ship's boats. No one saw him depart or knows why. You now have Gods of the Z, Salt's attention. You know something of the 3 Gods of the Z. You've lost 1 crew, and you've gained 5 fragments. Well, that wasn't too terrible. We did get an extra crew member, so that works. Alright, let's see what this place is. Abbey Rock. Here, the Grimm Sisters' lair. There we go. A black spit of an island, far from anywhere anyone would want to go, and that's how the Sisterhood likes it. Here stands their fortress Covenant. There are bear traps that look friendlier than this. We can trade supplies. Resources are limited on this bleak rock. The Sisterhood will pay a fair price for supplies. Not a good price, mind you. 20 echoes to be surprised. 20 echoes to be precise. Compile a port report. Knock at the iron-studded gates with news. This is where we could use our recent news. Watch the Covenant. Wait and see. Offer a gift. This will reduce terror. We don't have a hunting trophy. Search the surroundings. You can't be the first to come here. Let's go ahead and search the surroundings. A cache. You follow tracks into a sea cave. Someone has stored food, supplies, ammunition. It can't be the nuns. These crates have Khanate look. The Admiralty will want to know about this. We'll learn more about the Khanate. They are a faction that is generally opposed to the Admiralty and to London. So we've gained 5 fuel, 5 supplies, 1 strategic information. We can turn this into the Admiralty for some extra dosh. And then 1 torpedo component. We don't have any torpedo launchers, so that's not very valuable to us, but we could sell it. I don't really feel like trading supplies. 20 echoes is basically what we paid for them, but we can compile a port report, which is free to do. As always, nothing is happening. The sisters watch us, we feel their eyes, the sea crashes on the rocks, withdraws. The fortress stands solid as the last year of a century. The greatest peril you risk here is certain purpleness of prose. Let's go ahead and knock on the iron gates with news. Perhaps they will find it valuable. Brief attention. The muscular prioress, the abbess lieutenant, comes to the door to listen. She nods and makes notes. She pays particular attention to news of marsh beast predations and the traffic of the rooftops. In return, she offers a rather perfunctory blessing, but the blessing reassures your crew. You no longer have any of this recent news. You have lost 2 terror. New total is 4. Terror, the fear of the wide Black Sea and the things beyond. Reduce this with shore leave, especially in London. When you return to London after a time at Z, your terror will always drop to 50. So that's good to know. 50 is sort of the middle of the bar. Anytime your terror is above 50, if you get to London, it will immediately drop to 50, which is nice. Good to keep it under control before then, though. We can watch the Covenant. Dangerous training. Like a huge and deadly herons, the sisters stalk along the very tops of the walls. You watch through a spyglass as they leap and whirl, slashing at each other with a variety of frightening weapons. God, one of them just turned a somersault. That's all for now. We gained 5 fragments, and I think that just about wraps it up for here. Now remember, we want to check if there are shops in most ports. There are no shops in the Abbey of the Sisterhood, however. Also no shipyard. However, this is our current ship, and you can see we have a hull of 75, hold capacity of 40, a weight of 1,000. A heavier weight on a ship means that it takes more engine power to move it quickly. It also has a max speed that is determined by weight, I believe. There's sort of a cap on max speed. Quarters is 10. This is how many sailors we can have. The more sailors we can have, the better. But keep in mind, having a full stock of sailors also means that you're going to run through supplies much more quickly. Running too lean on sailors means that your engines cannot be run at anything but 1 power, which is very slow in most cases, and can be very dangerous if you're around enemies that you can't outrun. And then slots, we have a deck slot, auxiliary slot, bridge slot, and an engine slot. We can actually go to the hold here, and you can see that the forward slot and the aft slot are not available on this ship. And that means if we were to buy a forward or an aft weapon, we would not be able to equip it, which would be very bad. And a big waste of money. Don't ask me how I know that. Also, a little bit of stats. This determines how much damage we do. So you can see our gun plus our Iron's bonus is doing something between 10 and 14 damage to most targets. Any targets that have crew can also lose crew. And this is how quickly our ship will acquire a perfect shot. So you saw that little bar charging up when we were fighting the crab. When it gets green and gets filled, we will not miss our target. You can fire prior to that, but if you do, you have a chance of missing the target. You also have a chance of hitting them. Sometimes that's important. And then our journal, this is where we can keep track of all of the different things that we have going on. This is the one I was looking for. The Gnomic Gallivant is on a mission. We're going to Misery Company Funking Station. If I can find it. Alright. Abbey Rock is always in close proximity to other ports. They sort of spawn together as a group. We should probably go ahead and hit all of those if possible. But let's see if we can't find them. Okay. Wolf's Rift. Oh. There we go. Gotta get to the right side here. Probably don't need to run with our lights on all the time. The Shepherd Isles. Sheep, lichen, standing stones. Shepherd Isles. Of course, the bearded watchman tells you there are no actual shepherds on the Shepherd Isles. Sheep are mostly illegal here. No, indeed, it's just the name of the gentleman that found the isles. Greybeard, sitting in the village square, nods solemnly. No sheep, one says. but plenty of tales. Ask us anything. We can compile a port report. Oh, yes, yes. My, yes, there's been going-ons. In the bleak light of the false stars. Surface rolling like a porridge pot. Up with a roar of steam and a flash of fire. 3 windows swimming tentacles. Then we saw His Highness. There is rather a lot of this material. You now have 1 port report for the Shepherd Isles. We can also engage our first officer. So, there is the sigil-ridden Navigator. Let me guide your ship. I know all the Z. How it was, how it will be, please. The headaches only stop when I'm working. The Navigator is a first officer who increases mirrors and veils. This will cost us 50 echoes. That is very expensive. But he will increase mirrors and veils. Let's go ahead and grab our first officer for 50 echoes. And we'll go to Officers tab. We now can apply him to the first officer slot. Now, just like mascots, it is possible to acquire more than 1 first officer, but remember, only the one that is actively on duty will apply their stats to your ship and your crew. So this guy is giving us +6 mirrors and +3 veils. That's pretty good stats. That's why he costs 50, I would assume. We can right-click to speak to him. Yes, now is good. Thank you. We can invite him to dine. So typically speaking, the first thing that you have to do when you have an officer, if you want to initiate their quest, is dine with them. Most officers will require 1 supply, and you have a meal with them, and they start to tell you a little bit about themselves, which usually leads down a path of various tasks that you'll have to perform or things you'll have to collect. Some of the stories are pretty dark, and some of the stories are pretty lighthearted and funny. All of them have fairly satisfying ends if you can get to the end of them, but they can be quite difficult to do, and can take you a long time if it's your first time playing through, because you have to find some very specific and hard to acquire items or cards. We're not going to actually dine with him at the moment, but I am going to show you this. Maybe one of your secrets can drag something out of it. Spend a secret to improve your mirrors, unless it's higher than 100. So as long as our mirrors is less than 100, we can keep spending secrets to increase our mirrors attribute. So I'm going to go ahead and pay for 1 secret and gain a mirrors. So my new total on my mirrors is 26. And 26 plus whatever he was offering, plus any other bonuses we have, is giving us the 35. So we're getting the 3 from him, and the 6 from the Navigator. So we have a really high perception score at the moment, or at least higher than the base stats of 25. That's pretty good, and we'll be able to achieve any challenges that require perception or detection a little bit better. Also, if we go back over here, this has decreased by another 10th, I believe. So the more we raise that mirror score, the faster our warm-up time on our deck gun will be. Alright, off to the next adventure. Actually, before we leave, we should always check shops. You can see once again 20 and 30 supplies are pretty expensive out on the ocean, and no shipyard here. Alright, let's go ahead and head south of Shepherd's Isle, and I believe we should run into our third island of the trio that always seems to be grouped together. There it is. And actually, while we're at it, let's see if we can't kill this crab. So we keep him right on the edge. Keep him right on the edge. It's going to take us a couple of shots. Go. And this will be a yummy little meal. So we could do the low risk challenge again, but instead I'm going to butcher it for supplies. You can see that we have 28 hunger, and so we're about halfway through our hunger cycle where we're going to consume one of our 11 supplies. This will basically extend that now. Everybody has a yummy crab meal, and we're off to Station 3. Alright. Station 3. Machinery hums behind high steel walls. Up the hill there are visible outlines of warehouses and a building with a spire. But the lamps are low where they burn at all, and your ship is the only one in the harbor. Train your telescope on the shore. Might be best to get a look from a distance. Church? Or something else? You stand on the high point of your ship and look to the shore. There is a steepled building on the horizon, by far the largest thing in sight. No cross markings the top of it, nor any other symbol you recognize. You now have a port report for Station 3. Deliver a long box, try the gate, search for signs of visitors, a chancy challenge. 41% chance of success with our current mirrors score. One of the things you could do in this situation if you had more officers is you could shuffle your officers around to try to find ones that give you a higher mirrors chance. We'll go ahead and run this risk. So we have less than 50-50 chance, but we'll see what happens. Ironmonger's tools. Stacked near the stairs is a pile of worn-out tools. Tongs, whose hinges have given way, a hammer whose head is coming loose from its shaft, an anvil whose surface is mazed with deep cracks. You succeeded in a mirror's challenge. You gained 10 fragments. That's all for now. Okay. Try the gate. The only way past the walls is an unimposing but sturdy-looking gate of triple-barred silvery metal. A sign that beside it reads "Deliveries." No way in. The metal is steel-hard and icy cold to the touch. Attempts with the chisel and crowbars fail. Perhaps if you could bring the ship's gun to bear, but no. If you return with a certain delivery, the gate will be open. You'll know if you find it. Sooth and Copper Long Box. So if we find a Sooth and Copper Long Box, it'll probably give us a clue that we need to head to Station 3. There are no shops, and there is no shipyard. So off we go. And we'll continue to head south and see if we can't find the Funging Station. It might be over in this area. The map is sort of divided into regions vertically. So you can see there's a line here. And I can't remember if there's 6. think it's 6 or 7 regions. Alright, off we go to the south. We'll want to avoid most baddies out here. Like this guy. It's going to take a lot to kill him. Gilliflower. One more shot ought to do it. Oh, there we go. Alright, Gilliflower's End. The Gilliflower. Is it a young jellyfish? A lesser subspecies? Do the dreams of jellyfish become real? In any case, now it is sad slick of goo, dissolving into the sea. Scoop it up. Perhaps you can eat it. Better yet, perhaps your sailors can. Let it disperse. Watch its oil rainbow colors fade. So we got 2 options here. I'm going to go ahead and scoop it up. It will wait in the hold like a cup of dissolved moon. One day you will eat it, or perhaps it will eat you. You gained 1 new supply. Alright, that was pretty fortunate. Managed to catch him in such a way that he didn't get to bounce off our ship and crush our hull. It's always nice. Ah, looks like we found the salt lions. The salt lions are a very important find. The salt lions are one of the best ways to make money in the early game. Now, unfortunately for us, we are not probably in a position to make any money this time. But now that we know where it's at, it will make making money here much easier in the future. There is a vast sorrow in their empty eyes. 2 basalt beasts, cathedral-sized. They frown eternally at each other across the black waves. The north one carries an encampment. Creeping human figures eat away at its features like rot. Picking. There's a supply dock below. The unmakers are here to reduce the salt lions to rubble, 1 block at a time. Help them in their work by carrying the rubble back to London. You will need a deposit and 20 units of cargo space. Unfortunately, we do not have the 200 echoes required, but we do actually have the cargo space. So unfortunately, we could take it if we had a little bit more money. We would be very, very close, actually, if we hadn't picked up the sigil-ridden Navigator. But we did, and so we will be unable to do this on this particular trip. I believe we get quite a bit. It costs 200 to pick this up. I think we make something like 100 every time we deliver this, so we sell it for 300 or something. We also get to compile a port report, which is going to be useful. Record the activities of the unmakers, such as they are. Rite of Stone and Silence. No shops or shipyard here. And so we're off once again. So I think it might make more sense at this point to head a little bit further east. It's hard to say for sure, but the Funging Station is generally pretty close to London, so it can't be too much further. If we head east and then south and then back west, we'll cover quite a bit of ground near London, and we should have enough fuel to do that. So that's my plan at the moment. We will want to avoid that ship at all costs. We are not a combat ship. Any ship that has guns on the front of it can do a lot of damage. So we'll want to stay away from him. As long as we don't run our lights too close to him, he won't be able to spot us. Alright, what do we got over here? Looks like maybe Gator's Morn? Yeah. There's going to be a lot of pirate ships over here. Oh dear. And there is one. Let's get behind this rock where he won't be able to shoot at us. That is a pirate frigate. We'll want to be very careful as we travel through this area. Alright, Gator's Morn. Step carefully. The Morn is a stalagmite, vast as a crag, and its foot has no safe harbors. The Corsair's citadel nestles halfway up. An intricate system of winches take the strain, and your ship rises slowly from the sea. Her hull creaks in protest. Grizzled sailors groan and cling to stations. Higher, higher. Now the Unterzee shimmers like glass below. Children clambering in crevices cheer and wave alarmingly. The winch motor slows, and you hang in a cradle next to a red-bowed pirate cutter. Red-bowed pirate cutter. Okay, we'll have some options here. This can be a pretty dangerous place to be. As you might imagine, the company here is unsavory, to say the least. We can do a few different things. We could gather intelligence. Gator's Morn swarms with pirates and smugglers, and captains of uncertain allegiance. You could learn a lot here, but you'll need to go carefully. This is a Veils challenge. We don't have very high Veils, so it's considered a tough challenge. This is how you get a port report. If you fail this challenge, generally bad things happen to you and your crew, and since we're not very stealthy, I think we're going to pass on that. Overhear rumors of a pirate poet. Landlubbers fear pirates, pirates fear the poet. Lies, nonsense, glimmers. Some say she's a clay man who freed herself with the power of verse. Possible. Others insist she's the personal muse of the king with 100 hearts. Unlikely. One claims she sails a living ship made of still screaming skulls of her victims. More sober voices mutter that no, it's just an Alclas-class vessel. Whatever the truce, few have fought her and survived a tale to tell. Only the bravest captains risk the lonely parts of the sea where her flag is said to fly. The pirate poet. So this is someone we might come across in a future adventure. We have something awaits us, so we can explore. This can sometimes find you free loot. It can other times find you bad things. And we can sit down and drink with the pirates again. Anytime that you eat or drink at port, it tends to lower your terror. Sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen, but it generally is very expensive to lower terror this way. It is an important thing that you'll want to do if your terror is getting out of control occasionally. We're not going to take the Chancy Challenge, but we will go ahead and explore the Moor. There's a surprising quantity of actual landscape on the Moor. It's vertical, admittedly, but once you find the beast paths and urchin roads, you can traverse it as you would a rocky moor, with an additional throat full of lurching terror. A contretemps with corsairs. Fights on the Moor have a staccato quality. A careless lunge will send you plummeting to your doom. So wait and choose your moment carefully. Fight! You're good at that. A high-risk challenge. We're not that good at it. Flee. The better part of valor is discretion. The better part of discretion is not falling off a high cliff into a rocky fanged sea. Well, of the two choices, we're not very good at either. I guess we'll go for the flee and see if we get away. Not unscathed. One pulse-pounding chase through the shanties of Gator's Warren later, you finally evade pursuit. Your count heads. One short. Vale's 29 failed in the challenge. Try again and you may have better luck. We've gained 5 terror and we've lost 1 crew, so that was not very productive. Shops. There are definitely shops in the pirate village. You'll notice that supplies and food are very expensive here, but we could also sell our mushroom wine here for a small profit if we were to have any. That's good to know. Also, you can buy solace fruit here for a very pricey 250 echoes, but this is probably the easiest place to acquire it. And souls. We can get unstamped crate of brilliant souls for 150. Well, we could sell them here for 150. Human souls for 40, sunlight-filled mirror catch box for 300, a firkin of red honey sells for a nice 625, and we can also buy the concealed compartment for 750 echoes. This is an aft attachment, and it provides plus 20 to contraband concealment. So if you're transporting nefarious goods into London, occasionally the authorities like to check your stash. This will reduce the chance that they find anything. This can be pretty helpful in some quest lines or some trade routes. There's really nothing here that we need to buy. I'm considering buying some fuel since we're down to 8, but I think 8 is enough to get us to the next port where we probably have better luck at finding cheaper fuel, and maybe even enough to get us to London, depending on how much further we end up traveling. We are going to travel south of here, and see if we can't find the funging station. I'm going to turn my lights off, at least until we're close to being out of the pirates' territory. There are definitely going to be some more pirate ships over here that we'll have to try to avoid. Like that one. We may even have to fire our engines at full power. Let's try to get away from him. Alright, cool. He did not see us. Barely got away from that. So let's turn our lights on. What? shark. Okay, we shall try and avoid the shark. Sharks are not that terribly dangerous, but they have enough health that we probably... Whoa, very foggy. Ooh, a crab. That is a big crab. We don't want to fight that one. Ah! Okay. That's not good. Alright, we'll get our engines running. That burns a lot of fuel to do that. But it does get us out of a sticky situation. And we found Pigmote Island. Pigmote Isle is an interesting little island. We'll want to pop in and say hello. Two houses, both alike in dignity. On a lonely desert beach, there is no habitation in sight, no market, only an odd rotting dock. A stench of sand thickens into damp black earth, from which sprout stunted palms? Not quite, tall fungal growths with frond-like caps, as if someone had sculpted the idea of a tree from a mushroom. Disembark, see what awaits you. War? As you step onto the quay, you hear clamor, shouts, and shooting. You can see off in the distance, smoke rising from beyond the hill, and dots of fire flecking the horizon. Two tiny figures stand a little further down the quay, unmoving, as if awaiting your approach. The following is an extract from the popular Diary of a Sea Captain from London to Eero, and what we did there before we arrived. Washed ashore on Mutton Island, and subsequently serialized in the Unexpungiated Gazette. The author's identity remains unknown. The Tale of Pigmote Island, in which a delegation is made, a choice is presented, war is declared, a most singular treasure is sought by all, and a new empire is founded with tooth and claw. Chapter 1, The Delegation. The figures were rodents. To my left was a Radus Faber, wearing goggles, a blacksmith apron, and an assortment of tools. To my right, an unusually large guinea pig, wearing a helmet and breastplate, reminiscent of nothing so much as the High Middle Ages. The rat stepped forward first and bowed. Welcome, Captain, to Rat Star Island. I am Edgar, second chief engineer of the 3rd Rat Brigade. I invite you to avail yourself of food and fuel at our expense. The only cost to you is a choice. The rat stepped back. At precisely the same moment, with what appeared to be the ease of long habit, the guinea pig scuttled forward and made a declamatory chirp. Welcome, Captain, to the Isle of Caviar. I am Lady Augusta de Veru, Swinch of the Blackwater Swinches, Sensual to our King Gracegnaw, first of his name. I invite you to avail yourself of food and fuel at our expense. The only cost to you is a choice. The two stood at attention, looking at me expectantly. The two remarkable rodents sat squatted, both seeking my support. I knew I had to choose carefully. I spoke to the chief engineer. His eyes had a wave, cold glint to them, and he wore his scars like jewels. I spoke to the seneschal. How did an armored guinea pig manage to look regal? I had heard more than enough. I was ready to make my choice. A rat in the making. I asked the chief engineer to elaborate. He looked at me for a long, measured moment before speaking gruffly. We came to this island to make a home for ourselves, away from London. Its cats and snuffers, its rat-skin suits. We came to live as citizens of our own republic. We came with our tools, our teeth, our clever hands, and we made a beautiful city in the light of the rat star that shone bright and blue on Mount Ararat. The chief engineer nodded towards the distant hill. One day we braved the depths of the chicken woods, and from the top of Mount Ararat, we plucked the rat star to be our light, our beacon. But the pigs of Kavy saw the light, and they lusted for it. They sent armies to rule us and steal our star. We will not permit them to take what is ours. We will resist to our last breath. Will you join us in defeating them? Let's talk to the pig. A night out of habit. The seneschal cleared her throat with delicacy to rival the Duchess's own before speaking. Grace na, the king of our lord and sovereign, full 7 months had sojourned to the sea, conquered this land, and won the southern main. Now no fortress against him shall remain, no city walls be left for him to gain, save the rats that squeak behind the mountain. Unlikely was the lamb of our deliverance, assured shall be our glories at their fall, when our lady's eye restored be to our hall. The seneschal composed herself, then added, We saw truth and beauty by the light of our lady's eye on Mount Caveat. But the rats with their guns and their chatter and their peasants' politics stole it from us. We will subjugate them and take it back. They are rabble, and we will rule them with steel-shod velvet or of our paws. Will you join us? Okay, ready to make a choice. As you can well imagine, I faced quite a dilemma. Their red eyes stared up at me, wanting for my choice. Surely their commonalities were more numerous than their differences. Perhaps I could help them get along. My words helped them reach agreement. The chief engineer and the seneschal shared a look, then regarded me with scornful amusement. Yes, smirked the chief engineer, you're obviously more clever than us. Oh, much, murmured Senesh. I cannot say this word. Seneschal? You cleverly know us much better than we know ourselves. Apparently, idealism would not help here. Alright, so we have to pick one of these. This quest has been updated since the very early versions of the game, and it's quite a bit more complex than it used to be. What I do recall is that whichever side you pick, you may eventually get a new mascot. You can get a rat engineer mascot, or a guinea pig mascot. Both give different stats, and I don't really remember which stats they give, or if it really matters to me. I'm going to lean towards the rats. Alright, a friend to rats. I extended a finger to the chief engineer, who shook it grimly. The seneschal hissed and chattered her teeth in disgust, but kept her distance. "You've made the right choice," said the chief engineer. "Let me show you around. You've gained 1 fuel, 1 supply, and we now have an occurrence. Memoirs, a rat in the making. Quality is now 1. You choose to help the rats." The chief engineer led me to the northern side of the island, skirting the chicken woods. We passed through a number of what can only be termed checkpoints, as fierce-eyed rats shouldered their derringers and saluted the chief engineer. Soon we came upon a small colony, smaller than some of the infestations I had encountered in London flats. Perhaps only 50 Ratus Faber altogether, working diligently to fortify their side of the island. The first thing I noticed was a brilliant light beaming out from a stump of chickenwood about 6 feet high. It bathed the whole settlement in clean blue glow, and was almost too bright to look at. By its light I could see several raised mounds of earth, suggesting shallow tunnels. An efficient fishing operation was set up by the water, an albino rat mending nets while others stabbed sharpened sticks into the waves. Further inland was a barracks, where a sergeant barked drills at small squadron of fighters. My arrival drew attention, and several rats paused their work to look at me curiously. "Welcome to Morinia," said the chief engineer, voice warm with pride. "It's not much to look at now, but it will be once our rousted the cavies. Take a stroll around while I summon the war council." With that, he vanished into one of the mounds and left me to explore. Let's take a closer look at the rat star. An excitable-looking rat was peering at it through smoky goggles, twitching her whiskers and making notes on what appeared to be real paper. Blue as a sapphire, but endlessly more brilliant. It's not a star, of course, not really, but try explaining that to the others. The chief engineer doesn't want me working too hard to convince them. Says this better for morale. But just look at it. Look! She offered me her goggles. I managed to work them over just enough of one of my eyes to see the truth of what she was studying. It was scintillac, but unlike any I've seen before. Blue as sapphire, but more brilliant. Something about the clarity of its color was tremendously soothing. The chief science officer twittered with pleasure as I handed her the goggles back. Those of us who've been to the cavey side of the island and lived to tell of it say that there's plenty of glow there, plenty of bright in the water all around, but nothing like this. We took this from the island's center, Mount Ararat. Only it's not a mountain, of course, any more than this is a star. It's hollow. There's sweet water inside and coral crawlings all up the walls of it, but nothing that glows save this. It's ours now, and no one can take it from us. The chief engineer led me to the north side of the island, skirting the chicken woods. We passed through a number of... we've already read this. Let's see. We can visit the barracks. We can head to the beach. We can finish the exploration and visit with the war council. The chief engineer emerged from the underground with a motley assortment of other rats. He introduced them as weapons experts, strategists, and field commanders. "So you're going to help us beat the cavies," he said, a hard edge in his voice. "But how exactly?" I offered my strategic assistance. We engineered a distraction that the LBs could use to plunder the KV ship and turn the tide in their favor. Or I had a ship, I had cannons, we could steer her to the south side of the island and have at those uppity animals a tough challenge. I had nothing to offer but my advice. The king took it in desperation, if not gratitude. I guess we'll take the chancy challenge with the veils and see if this pays off. It probably won't. Weighed and found wanting. That doesn't sound good. As we pretended to take a rat hostage and approached the KVs as with a gift demanding an audience with the essential, a battalion encircled us almost immediately. Their armor and helmets clanked as they purred and chattered amongst themselves. Well, well, said the seneschal, regarding me with what I suppose to be a smile, a reversal of fortune. How unlikely. I suppose you will have no trouble slitting this savage's throats on our behalf. My fraction of a moment's hesitation was all the confirmation the essential needed. See to the ship, she snapped, and half the party scurried to intercept the rats skulking aboard, screaming war cries that curdled my blood. As for you, said the essential sweetly, thank you very kindly for your gift. I assure you it is most graciously received. More swiftly than I would have thought possible, the seneschal leapt onto the rat I held bound and sank her incisors into its chest. I escaped with my life, but found myself unable to forget how the rat screamed and writhed while the seneschal raised her face to me again, his liver gleaming obscenely in her mouth. Ah yes, we failed our Veils challenge, and we've gained 5 terror, because this game is terrifying at times. Okay. We will not be doing this. We could try this again, or we could try this. We could keep doing these things until we achieve one of them, but I'm going to go ahead and pass. A charge! The KVs had the advantage over the rats. To prolong this much longer was a sure path to defeat. I advised them to put everything they had to one desperate assault on the beached ship. Unhappily, they concurred. The sound of gunfire and screams echoed as far away as my ship, where the crew and I sat and watched. Few of the rats that marched forward that day returned to the light of their precious rat star. Those that did return, bloody and shaking, yet in triumph. It was as much as they could have hoped for if hard to call a victory. Hail Marina! An occurrence. Your Pygmoti Isle might quality is now 2. An occurrence. Your Pygmoti Isle spirit quality is now 3. Your Pygmoti Isle civilization quality is now 2. So you can raise these qualities by doing different tasks, and the settlement will advance in different ways depending on which path you choose. Again, very similar to a choose your own adventure type scenario. The House of the KV have fallen. Marina was triumphant. All that remained were the celebrations and the continuation of our voyage. Oh, how we feasted long into the night then. I invited one of the Ratus Faber to join us. After all, what's a ship without a few rats? Okay, we now have the albino tinker. The chief engineer couldn't leave his colony, but he relayed my request to his people. The albino rat I saw mending nets shyly stepped forward. I'm good at fixing things, he said earnestly, and I'd like to see more of the world. I waited for him to gather up some effects and say goodbye to his family before accompanying him on board. You now have 1 albino tinker. Okay, they were crushed, defeated, and I could see their spirits broken without the light of the rat star to guide them. They need an advocate. The wide dark sea beckoned. We had eaten our fill of our business was concluded. It was time to continue the voyage and see what other wonders and terrors still awaited us. Let's go ahead and head out for now. We now have a port report, and our hunger quality is gone, so we got fed, which is nice. And we have a new officer, which is also a mascot. This will give us 2 veils. We cannot talk to this one. So I'm going to just go ahead and leave him up here. We're not doing a Veils challenge right now. And I would much rather have the mirrors and pages while we're out and about. No shops here, no shipyard here. There's quite a bit more to this storyline. I have completed it a couple of different ways in past playthroughs. I've over 100 hours in this game, so I've played this game a lot. If you do have questions about the game or are interested in learning more, feel free to leave some questions in the comment section of my video, and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction or answer them if I know. But this is a really fun game. I would like to wrap up this little trip that we're on, so I think we're going to go ahead and head back towards the west and towards fallen London. We should be able to make it with our 7 fuel, but again, we're probably going to have to run with no engine, or sorry, no lights. Also, we'll want to avoid the baddies that we encountered earlier. In fact, I might even want to sort of hug the coast a little bit, get further north. Maybe use this island, Crab Cake Island. Stay out of the fog. Alright, something awaits us again whenever we get to another port. Some bats to the south of us. Into the pot. Actually, that's not a bad idea. We eat the corpses. That will lower our hunger and reduce our supplies. Or we could reduce terror. I think we'd rather just eat them. So we gain 1 new supply and 1 new terror. So we will actually lose a supply, but that's fine. We'll have another one. Alright. Try to conserve some more fuel here. Okay. Let's send out our Z-Bat. I haven't been using this. We can send this guy out and he'll give us indications of... Okay, so Visage is to the southwest. Let's mark that on our chart. So this is where Visage is at, so we don't really want to go to Visage. Let's go ahead and turn around and head back to the north. We could actually stop here and buy some fuel. It's kind of pricey to buy fuel here, so I think I'm going to pass. Alright, there's a pirate ship that I do not want to fight. Now we have to. Turn our lights on. It's going to take us 3 shots. We can stay behind his firing arc, he won't be able to shoot on us. Alright, you've destroyed a pirate steam pinnace. She's a vile old vessel, and these Z's aren't safe. Take what you can and move on. You have finished opening a cache of curiosities. Tap the bung carefully. A firkin of honey. This is what they call prisoner's honey, wrung by the lamplighter bee from the exile's rose. I wonder who made up all these names. A remarkable able seaman Carget. Someone who has read a sight too many books, I think. That is some weird accent on those words. We got a firkin of prisoner's honey. This is used in a couple of cool locations. Not where we're at currently. So we'll head a little bit further north, and then I'm going to head to the west. Let's see, what do we got over here? There's a new rock. Yeah, it looks like we're going to run into the salt lions. So we did not find what I was looking for. Let's see if we can't get to the Cuban Canal at least. The Cuban Canal is always directly south of Fallen London, so it's pretty easy to find and pretty easy to get to. There's usually another little port down here. Notice our ship is much more fuel efficient. We're running without the lamp on, however, we do increase terror much more quickly. And you'll also notice at the very beginning of the game, you move very, very slowly. And one of the first things that I would highly recommend that you do is spend some money on upgraded engines or items that increase engine power, so that you are much quicker. There is a limit to how much quicker you can make this starting ship, and so just like buying the most massive engines possible is not really worthwhile. We have plenty of supplies. I think we're going to go ahead and make a trip a little bit further south. We'll go ahead and run this challenge. We failed. We gained 1 terror and 10 fragments. We get nightmares occasionally. These little things will pop up. I should have dealt with that a little earlier, but we can deal with it now. Okay. The canal ascends through locks and gates and shadowed turns to the sunlight of the surface. So this is where you can actually go back to the surface. You can visit Vienna, but it's very expensive to travel to the surface. However, if you're able to do it, the trade there is really, really good. And if you trade the right things, you can make a lot of money that way. In fact, it's probably the fastest and easiest way to make money in the early game once you figure out how to do it. But it does cost a lot of supplies. So you'll need at least 2 supplies and 22 fuel to make it. And you can see that's nearly our entire cargo hold. That's 24 slots out of 40. Okay. We can assist the gnomic Gallivant in an enterprise of dubious legality. Listen to surface gossip or gather import reports. Let's go ahead and do that first. And then we'll listen to the surface gossip. And we got moves in the great game. A sorry end. A card game ends badly when one surface sailor knifes another for all the usual reasons. The other players scrabble for the coins that spill from her pockets, but you snatch up a scrap of paper and overlook it. Curious markings, dates, times, code names, spies' work. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. We needed to take him to 2 locations. This is one of them. A riddle. There are 10 individuals in a room, one of whom is an ancient tyrant. How can you distinguish him? Answer. Burglarize a private library for a picture of him beforehand. Knowing the enemy. As dinner bells sound throughout the port, you carry a ladder to one of the long-moored, half-legal ship hostels. You prop the ladder to the porthole of what the Gallivant assures you is the cabin of a French diplomat. He ascends swiftly, leaving you to carry the ladder away. Half an hour later, the Gallivant is back on your deck. He polishes his ruby cuffs. I have seen the face of eternity printed in ink. It was a terrible face. The gnomic Gallivant now knows his targets. We need to go to the Fungine station, which we did not find on this loop, but we'll be able to make a more informed loop next time. And I'm going to go ahead and head south of here because I know that the next port is one where we should be able to refuel rather cheaply. And so, while we'll be low on fuel, we should be able to restock. This port is known as the Iron Republic. It is always located south of the canal. The edges of the map never change. And it is also somewhat akin to the Gates of Hell. Very bizarre stuff happens in the Iron Republic. As you will soon see. The visuals in this game are just amazing. The music is amazing. The tension that can be created by things in this game is amazing. It's just a really fun game. The Iron Republic, Hell's client state. Be wary, their laws are not the laws of man or nature. Factory engines roar like false lions, blood thunders them the dock pipes. Crimson lightning skitters across the deck, leaps to the rail, curls there like a cat. The city is reflected in glassy, calm harbor water. The citizens there have the heads of dogs and serpents. Hell has brought freedom to the Iron Republic. Freedom from all laws, even those of nature. Engage an officer, the irrepressible cannoneer. Are you looking for a gunner? I'm looking for a ship. Here are my references. Here are more references. Here's my design for a whistling shell. Here's my colleague. He'll stay on shore. He's my hand. Will you take it? The cannoneer is a gunnery officer who substantially increases irons. Well, we could definitely use irons. This will only cost us 20 echoes to pick him up. I agree. Oh, this is interesting. Room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. Wait, let me make notes. Paper. Appoint your new officer. We've lost 20 echoes, but that's fine. Let's go to officers real quick. Here he is, the irrepressible cannoneer with +9 irons when in the gunnery slot. That will help our damage ever so slightly. Now we do 11 to 15. So +5 from our irons instead of the normal +4. That's nice. Go to shops, and here's what I was talking about. We can buy fuel for merely 8 echoes a unit. To be perfectly honest, 3 fuel is probably enough to get us home. But I'm going to buy 1 just to be safe. I could buy some more, and maybe I should since it's so cheap here. But before we do that, let's go back to the town and see if there's anything we want to do. So we could go to the Market of Hungers or compile a port report. It won't be entirely straightforward. The streets won't lie straight, and the ink freezes whenever you look away from the inkwell. The sensations of the Republic are overwhelming. This is a desire for years. That is a hatred for fountains. Here is an emotion that can only be expressed mathematically. Now you are awash with the nostalgia for the hatching of the egg. Write it down. Write it all down. Perhaps you'll be rid of it. We now have a port for the Iron Republic. Hearts remain unchanged. The Parliament of Flies is open for business. You now have 1 tale of terror and 1 memory of a distant shore. Let's go ahead and do this. Visit the Shops tab. You've gained 1 terror and 1 fragment. House of Pleasures. Okay, so what can we do here? I can buy Parabola Linen for 57 and sell it for like 60 in London, but I could only buy 2 of them, it looks like. Or we could buy some fuel. I was hoping that our firkin honey would be able to be sold here, but it doesn't look like that's the case today. These shops actually do rotate and vary depending on what day it is and what you draw. So there is somewhat of a cost as these things change over time and start to cost you hearts, I believe, to visit here. Visiting Hell takes its toll on you. I'm going to go ahead and buy 2 of these. I believe we can sell these for a better price in London. And that doesn't leave us enough for fuel, but I think we're in good shape. So that's probably all we need to do here. And off we go. still have 8 supplies, so we should be in good shape for food. And there's really nothing else for us to search. It's just basically a straight shot to London. And that will wrap up this first video of Fallen London, Sunless Sea, Zubmariner. If you've enjoyed this video, or if you enjoy these types of games, please give me some comments and some likes. Those are always most welcome. I enjoy playing these types of games very much. Like I said, I have over 100 hours in this particular game. It is one of my all-time favorite games to play. And while I've completed many of the stories in the game, they're just as fun to go back and revisit from time to time, like an old book. Darn it. Let's see if I can. No. I gotta spin all the way around. Alright, well, we took some hull damage there, but we'll scoop it up and we'll get another supply. And let's get right back on our trip north. No sense really stopping here again. I was certainly hoping that we would do enough damage to not have to shoot like 4 or 5 times, but without better engines, it's fairly difficult to avoid some of these things. It's going to be awful close on our fuel. That's perfectly fine though. You really want to stretch your resources in most cases. You will make some mistakes in that early on, but once you get the gist of, or the hang of how far you can travel on one fuel, you sort of learn it, and then you're able to make pretty good predictions. We should be close to another port here. Yeah, here we go. This will be the last one we'll visit. Actually, if I can get to one more, we never went to Hunter's Keep. We should definitely go there. Okay, Quaker's Haven. Once this simple fishing village was part of the London suburbs. Before London fell and the waters rushed in, smoke spirals from cottage chimneys, a lonely hill rises behind the town. Explore the shore, pick up a wretched log, another mascot, chat to the fisherman, one echo to get a port report. Visit the hilltop, a low-risk challenge. Buy supplies or buy fuel. Let's do the low-risk challenge. There's not much wind on the Unterzee, but Button Island suffers eerie gusts and buffets from an inexplicably local fragment of weather, and the air on the hilltop sometimes carries interesting scents. You stand on a cliff top, looking over the little village. Smoke from the chimney of the Cock and Magpie drifts straight upwards. As you watch the smoke tilts, the sudden wind thins it to a pencil smudge, then nothing. The wind screams unexpectedly like a god cut in half. What a noise! It must be the caves around the island channeling the air. At least that's the most comforting explanation. Below you, the locals each take nips from a shared flask and make a toast toward the mainland. The wind is a southerly. You succeeded in a page challenge. You've gained 2 terror and 27 fragments. Alright. We spent our something awaits, so we can look at the shops. There are no shops here, there are no shipyards here. And so off we go. There's usually a crab over here, the small one. But we just fed the crew, so not a lot of value in shooting a crab right now. I'm afraid we're not going to make it to Hunter's Keep on the fuel that we have. It is, however, possible to buy a fuel from here. So that would allow us to maybe do this. It's clear, bright, and beams warm the way. Ooh, never mind. We don't have any money for fuel. And we don't have any news, so we can't really interact with these sailors. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and chance it. We'll make sure we keep our light turned off. I basically have 2 bars worth of fuel. Once it gets to 0, you get 1 full bar. And then we do have enough supplies that in a pinch we could probably salvage some fuel to get us home. I would like to get this port report before we head back to London. Our terror's getting a little high, but that's fine. Hunter's Keep, a hump of dark rock swathed in mist like 100 other Unterzee islands. But here's a grand house, windows aglow, lawns impossibly green and lush in the false starlight, raked gravel paths. You stand on the dock as the sea nudges the ship's sides. An unexpectedly warm breeze carries the faintest trace of lavender. Present ourselves to the house, walk in the gardens, recon the island, spy on the house. We have a pretty good chance of being successful as spies. Let's go ahead and do that. Piano music. You peer through a half-open French window into a grand parlor. Grand in size, if a little reduced in style by dust and neglect. A dark-haired, pale-skinned young woman bends earnestly over a piano keyboard. Another, fair-haired, but unmistakably her sister, sprawls on the sofa with a book. A third sits by the fireplace, staring sorrowfully into the embers. Soon, she says, and the piano music falters and stops. We'll go hungry, and then the end will come. For me, but not for you. The pianist raises her eyes from the keyboard. Hush! If we don't speak of it, she frowns. She has seen you at the window. You withdraw. You succeeded in a Veil's challenge. We got 40 fragments for that. Recon the island for a port report. Ships rarely come here. Nothing changes, even the weather. The house is the heart of the isle. The house and the sisters. But the Admiralty may be happy to know that nothing's changed, at least. Present yourself. Knock and enter. A maid with smoldering topaz eyes shows you into the parlor where the 3 young women wait. A visitor, the youngest cried. The next youngest chuckles. The eldest sighs. Do excuse the indecorum, she says. Visitors are rare. You are very welcome. I am Cynthia. The noisy one is Phoebe, and the cheerful one is Lucy. You are in good time for lunch. Will you join us? Alright, we get to choose to have lunch with one of the sisters. Each sister will basically coincide with one of the Z gods, and you can earn their favor by talking to the specific sister. If we look at our hold, or is it our journal? Here we go. So we already have Salt's attention. Having the attention of the gods is important for some tasks to be unlocked. I'm not 100% sure which one is which. I'm pretty sure Cynthia is Salt. And you can only get their attention once, so doing this again won't really benefit us. So one of these might be Storm and Salt and Stone, I believe, are the three. Let's go ahead and have lunch with Phoebe. Here's a story. Phoebe has a story to tell, of two lovers parted by water, of a raven that carried messages, of a fragment of the moon. She beats time on the table as she speaks, as if to a song only she can hear. The effect is hypnotic. Your attention drifts out through the skylight of the dining room to the false stars glittering in the roof of the cavern. You drift like a puffball spore. The Unterzee shimmers below. Islands lie like mineral specimens on black velvet. Ships bob like wood chips between the islands. Vast spined things pulse in the depths. There is a scent, like the scent before a storm. The storm came, says Phoebe quietly. Everything changed. Somewhere in there you finish the last course. The scowling maid reluctantly serves cheese and bathed Oliver biscuits. Alright, so we got a memory of a distant shore. We got some supplies. We lost some hunger. We lost some terror. And we gained the attention of Storm. So we have two of the gods' attention. So that's good. We get the third one from talking to the right sister the next time. And then we'll have the attention of all three gods of the sea. No shops. No shipyard. And we have almost run out of fuel. But we should be able to make it back to Oliver if I don't crash my ship into too many things. And this will be the end of our first adventure at sea. I am planning on continuing this one for a little while at least. I don't know, I'm just in the mood for this game again, so hopefully people enjoy it and watch the video. The more views that I get, the more likely I am to continue any particular series. And the game has been saved, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. We have some interesting things to talk about next time, and a new course to plot, a new adventure to begin. So join me next time in Sunless Sea, Zubmariner, and you guys have a great evening.